Hey, good evening, and welcome and greetings to everybody out there. This is What's in the Skies, brought to you from and by America Disclosing Uncensored. And with me tonight, as usual, is my cup. You know, Let It Good coffee. That's all I drink. In the studio and at home, you got to stay loaded, or you can order yours online. Good people, good friends to the studio here. And with me tonight is Gary W. White from San Francisco Bay Area, now living in northern Nevada. He is an experiencer and a contactee. So, good evening, brother.
Good evening. Thank you, Michael, for having me on your show.
I'm happy to have you. Anything that gives us information is welcome to the platform. That's why sometimes my shows are back to back, sometimes they're weeks apart. Not everybody comes up or steps up to say, hey, I have something to share. So let's start in the most simplest way we can. What happened? How did this all begin?
Okay. With most people, it started at like 5 years old. I hear these beans shuffling around in my room and I call for my mom. She comes in. No, you're just dreaming. You're just imagining it. This happened a couple of times and it freaked me out. It was pretty scary. So they backed off, Michael. And then I guess I was in my 20s, driving home from work with a friend, and we see a mothership that's maybe 400 yards off the ground. And this thing's the size of a couple shopping malls. And once again, in the San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley, Sunnyvale, last place you'd think you would see something this big. I wanted to drive to it. I did drive to it. My friend that's with me, my coworker, he got very emotional. He was crying. He didn't want to go near it. He's, take me home, take me home. So we drove towards it. We drove towards it. I feel I'm being watched. I look up and I see one on each side of my car, like they're piloting us towards this big, huge craft. He got very emotional. So I turned around. They were gone. In hindsight, my guides told me that was like a switch. It set me on a path. I started reading and studying. I was instantly obsessed with aliens and UFOs and spirituality. Why are we here? What's the connection with us and them? Then a few years later, I start going through near death experiences. It feels like my brain's flopping upside down in my head and I'm dying. I ended up living in the back of a truck. I was homeless for close to 10 years. So one night, I start getting this anxiety, head rush, whatever you want to call it. And I face the fact I'm going to die. So I lay down in the back of the truck. Voice comes in. It tells me about a band of energy around our planet that we tap into, a creative band. And they showed me a song, Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine, and a song that I wrote and how they were similar. And they're saying this is how you both tapped into this band of energy or creative energy. And it comes out colored with your personality because the songs were slightly different, you know? That went on. I had to get up to the call of nature and they were gone and I couldn't get them back. Then probably about 4 months or so later happens again. I lay down and say, okay, I'm going to die. I'm accepting this is my death. Lay down, voice pops in, starts just talking to me, sharing information. And once again, I got to get up and answer the call of nature. And they tell me, and I say, well, if I get up, you're going to be gone like last time and I can't get you back. And they tell me, well, we've been with you your whole life. We will be with you the rest of your life. So I get up, I'm doing my thing. They tell me, you need to get back in the truck. The police are coming. And I get in the truck, I'm looking out my little crack, and sure enough, cop goes by. So I'm going, wow, this is unique. Obviously, I'm in touch with something intelligent. Hadn't put together the ET connection yet. At this point, it's a voice. I asked who it was. They said I could call them Quintile. And they said it was...
I'm sorry, Quintile?
Quintile. Yes.
Quintile. That's interesting. But right now, again, as you said, I just want to make sure I'm following you. Sure. You have no idea what the identity of these entities are, but you're hearing this.
I'm hearing this. They're speaking to me.
And you hear this in your mind?
Yeah, we're having mental conversations as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
full-on mental conversations with them. And I ask them, they say, you can call us Quintile, like my name's Gary, their name's Quintile. And I ask, who are you? And they said the supreme being. And I'm going, okay, not sure what to think about that, Michael. You know what I'm saying? They said they've been called the supreme being and the infinite soul. Not quite sure what to think about it. So I'm getting tired and I got to go to sleep. And they're saying, okay, we're with you the rest of your life. I wake up the next morning and they just start going and talking to me. And I'm driving around with this friend of mine from India at the time. And when this first happened, Michael, they spoke through my mouth. So I'm driving my truck down the freeway. They're talking through me to the guy next to me and answering questions about his family and his culture that I don't possibly know. I'm just a musician at that point. At that point, I'm a homeless musician. They're answering them questions. They're talking directly through my mouth. I could drive, listen to what they're saying, and still have my own thoughts. Okay. So at this point, I'm going, okay, I could be doing psychic readings. So I start answering questions for people. I'm doing this basically for free. And then one day, afternoon, I'm laying in the back of this truck and I'm looking up at the sky and I'm reading a book. And I look up at this cloud and I see a little UFO pop out, pop back in, pop out, pop back in. And they tell me, we're the ones that are communicating with you. And then at that point, Michael, I started seeing these crafts on a daily basis, nightly, most at night, now and then during the day, but mostly at night. And I did psychic readings for probably 15, 20 years. I don't want to say who, but I found somebody on America's Most Wanted. I was trying to do missing children cases, and I was working on one, and the police suspected me of doing it because I had details that they didn't release. And in California, just about, I think it was a year, maybe 2 years ago, they arrested a cop that was killing kids up and down California. And this was the individual that I told them. It was a detective that was doing this to these kids, boys.
Wow.
And it kind of put an end to that. After them looking at me like I was a murderer, I said, yeah, I can't be doing this. And it wasn't nice, Michael. I think they call it an empath. I feel these emotions from the victim and the person committing the crimes, and it's not nice.
Right.
So
this is an entirety of frequency of you experiencing the victim
yes,
that
yeah,
way.
I would experience emotions and all of that, and I've heard this is common. Other people, I'm not the only one, that's
Right.
not communicated with these beings, but the empath and feel others' emotions. And I was in that truck, lived in the truck for a bit. Oh, I got out of the truck. So I started saying, I need to start writing this down on paper. I didn't have a computer. This was back, this was in the 90s. So I had a pager and business cards, is how I started out, Michael. I would scrounge up money, have part-time jobs and manual labor, whatever I could do to get money living in this truck. And I got a pager and I got cards and did the readings, was trying to help people. And then I got out and I got my first computer in 99 and it was on. They basically instilled in me to help people for free, which I've done and I still do to this day. My goal is to help millions of people on this planet for free.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, Michael, I know I'm honestly in the thousands, and that's my goal, is to help millions. At this point, I'm trying to parlay this into money because I need money to do an organization called Work for Life, which fix broken lives. I need money to do this.
Okay.
Right now, I'm a security guard. I'm your average individual. I survive a very meager life. So I can't charge people for helping them, and I can't charge for sharing the information they share with me. So I got my first engagement where I'm going to be speaking at a conference, and maybe that's going to be it. I got numerous business ideas where if I got to start with the money, I could fund this. Once I get this Work for Life going, where I want to live in tough love program, and you focus on the single moms The guys bail. They got these kids, and all they got is Walmart or McDonald's. You train them in a trade. They live in this program. You teach them to get up and make their food and brush their teeth and make the bed and do the dishes. Because I've learned that, especially nowadays, started with my generation, where you're being raised by a TV set or a video game. And the kids don't know to do this stuff. So I want to train them in trades to where they can make decent money, teach them how to develop credit, how to buy a home, how to plan for retirement. Stuff that, in my opinion, they should be teaching these kids in public schools, but they don't. Right. Public schools, my opinion, is a babysitting organization.
I would agree with that, but can I just for a moment? I know you wanted to express some of what you'd like to come out of this in the future, and I'm sure they're going to, with the guidance that you've and support you've already had from the ET or the special supreme beings, as you call them, they'll probably focus you to a direction. That always seems to be the case scenario for many.
It is.
Which is a message of positivity in itself. But you also said that they were speaking through your mouth as if they were utilizing your body as like a middleman, so to speak, or I'm at a loss for the proper word to put there. But you were actually experiencing like a body takeover.
They occupy. Yeah, they do. They did then. Here's a story for you. I guess after I go through all this, and this is probably about maybe 3 years ago, I get in touch with an ex-girlfriend from when I was like in my 20s. I start telling her, check out what I'm going through, these ETs and this and that. And she tells me, Gary, you told me about this in your parents' living room when we were kids. And I'm all, I didn't know this at that age. I didn't know about this till I was, in my 30s. And she says, you told me all of this. So they've done this, Michael. They've been able to occupy my body. They could speak through me. They haven't done that in a long time with me consciously listening. And they can do it with shutting me down. I've been in a room in an apartment when I just came out of the homeless pit, and I'm hanging out with the guy, and I'm watching TV, and I'm watching like Seinfeld on TV, and we're talking, doing our thing. All of a sudden, this guy is like upset, and he's all F you, F you, F you, F you. I'm sorry, you missed a couple, man. There's like 5 of them. And apparently they told him some things. I looked down at the TV show, and like an hour's time has gone by that they chatted with this guy that I had no idea went on, and I have no idea what they told him.
So you were experiencing time slips.
Oh yeah, I got up here on my shoulder scoop scar, which is common with the abductees, and that was 24 hours missing time when I got that. I've definitely.
Have you ever been tested for what that mark may have been, like a tracking device of some sort that match up to what Roger Lear was trying to expose to the world and was removing from people? Which, by the way, not that this has anything to do with anything. I would love to know what happened to his materials. I just wanted to express that because I loved his work, and he supported a dark part of the community at a time when nobody wanted to make acceptance to this in many ways. But at the same time, there was a huge door opening, and I'm sorry that he missed that. But for you and yourself, have you ever been checked in any way to see if there were any foreign objects within you?
I haven't, but I would bet my house on it that I got one right here in my chest. It's right at the time they made the breakthrough with me. I get this lump one day in my chest, and it got bigger, and it got smaller and bigger and smaller. And I know what it is. They've given me an explanation of what this is about. The scar is a scoop, like they scooped with an ice cream scooper.
It's that big, or just
no,
metaphorically speaking?
It's a little tiny. I'll send you a picture.
Okay. No, okay. Yeah, okay.
And they said basically that. I thought it was like a genetic sample. And they said, no, this DNA and all this, they could do a mouth swab. They don't got to do a probe. They can do just right from your mouth. They said that this on these scoop scars with abductees is almost like a motorcycle club with a jacket and a patch. And you got certain patches that signify you're standing in that club. And they said that's exactly what these scoop scars are. It's nothing more than signifies how involved with you are with these beings. Mine's very, very deep. I've seen shallow ones. This thing is good 30 to 35 years old, and I'll send you a picture of it. Um, some of them I've seen on people are more shallow. They've said that I've worked with them for 113 years or 113 lifetimes with these particular beings. And I'm involved in the genetic development program, is what they said this whole planet is about. Not just humans, plants, animals. And that's what this planet was created for, genetic development. They take these genetics and they use them in other planets to seed or culture other intelligent life. How about that? So
Does it come and go? I mean, like as well, they bring here or have brought it all here, and now from us and what is going on here, they take it from here and, as you said, share it throughout the universe.
bingo, is they're developing it here. They call this a developmental warehouse of genetics. And they said someone like me, they said I am a high priority genetic development volunteer. They say we volunteer for these before we're born, part of our soul contract. But really, let's go back to this whole implant. Roger Lear, I just asked me, and I need to answer his question because he said that he was set up with Roger Lear to be tested, and then the guy passed away. And it's too bad he didn't pass this on to somebody to continue what he was doing. Very important work. But I asked my guides, so what is this thing about in my chest? And they said, a lot of people think it's a tracking of device. They said we could do that mentally. They think of a person and they're there. They think of a planet and they're there. They do this in the astral planes as a light, what some people call a light being. I
Mm-hmm.
call it a spiritual energy. Okay. They don't need tracking devices. They don't need it to mentally talk to somebody. That I'll get to that in a bit. That's higher mental development. This is what I get in return for being part of this volunteer program and them doing what we call abductions, is they develop the higher mental development. This is why you hear all these people saying they're communicating with me mentally. They're helping us to develop this part of our brain. Just
Right.
like they also help me to develop creativity. This is why you hear like Sammy Hagar, Jimi Hendrix, John Lennon, Bootsy Collins, George Clinton, all these musicians having encounters with them. Most of them, they might not admit that they're being taken and being part of this program, but they are. If they're having these encounters, you're involved with them.
It's
But back to,
funny. It's funny you brought that up. It just for a quick second. Hey, I interrupt things. I'm sorry,
okay,
but Sammy speaks about having abilities of different sorts,
yes,
knowing things, experiencing phenomena, and haunting type situations and scenarios. Communicating with the dead through dreams. I mean, he's actually spoke about these kind of things publicly. And when you bring his name into the picture that way, it's something that I know about, as well as a couple others and other stories shared through music, to where they say they wake up, they dreamt the song,
yeah,
and then they write it down, or they're able to finish the work. It's like that light bulb goes off, that download they receive, whether it's through a dream state, astral projection,
yes,
or actually being taken with them. Now, but nevertheless, they accomplish the goal. They do something. A message form comes out through vibration, frequency, music, entertainment, and positivity in many ways, because we enjoy it and all that.
it is.
So I appreciate you bringing it up that way, because I think it's really important to understand that you land on something there of great importance. Let me before I interrupt anymore, let me let you try to focus back to where you were. But I wanted to interject that because some
Yeah.
of the people come in may not have that total part of the information. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand exactly what you mean. And to kind of add to that, Michael, they've told me, there's the saying, you can't take it with you, which all your physical toys, your cars, your houses, when you
Right.
die, you ain't taking that with you. But your creative development, your higher mental development, psychic abilities is what higher mental development is. You take that from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime and it develops. It's just not one life. It's just like with me, 113 lives of working with these beings to get to the point where I'm at right now, where it's very easy to do. It just flows and there's no terror. See, some people are being terrorized by these beings. That's a reality, man.
Yeah.
That happens. We got to be very considerate of these people, but it's I hate to use this word. It's almost like a hazing, Michael. When you
Mhm.
first start these lives and it's a commitment of multiple lives, you go through this whole terror type of thing. And eventually you get past it. And I talk to people all the time and they're going, it's like a friendly thing. I'm not scared of them. And that, well, you've been working with them multiple lives. That's why you've gotten past that. But let's jump back to I never did get to say what they told me this whole implant is about. They said it's basically a high-tech EKG, that it will tell you in so much detail how many brain cells you have, how many white blood cells, how many red blood cells. Okay. They, in complete detail, the whole physical breakdown of your body. Now, me, I'm diabetic. I've been through, I played in bands. I see a guitar in the background, like the guitar there, Michael.
Yeah.
I did the band thing. I did the party thing. So I tell people all the time, I got over 100 scars on my body. And for years, I'm going, well, what the heck are these scars about? And just probably about a year ago, they told me, well, what we're doing with the scars is when we take you and we're doing these, what we call abductions, procedures, I'll call them. How about that? They're basically taking a hunk out of my skin and they're seeing the rate that it heals with the diabetes being out of control. I mean, there's one point I'm checking my blood sugar and it was 600, and really 600, I should be in a coma and be dead. But
I was at 1,200.
were you?
No joke. Yeah.
See, that's
And now I'm at 0. I mean, I'm running at about 88 to 90.
good. Good. You got it in control.
Yeah, I did it on my own through my own scenario of process. So, but I understand where you're at with that. That's really impressive what you're telling me, because none of us are thinking it that way. And these devices, as Roger said, when he was trying to remove them, some of them had the abilities to move into other parts of the body.
You.
You had to like trap them, and then they became one with the body.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense because we know technology now picks up on brain frequency readings, and they can identify us just through thought. How that technology seriously works, and within our governments and so forth, I don't know. But I've read paperwork on it. I've read articles on it. I've heard it being expressed from people of places of position that talk about this and discuss it, and it makes perfect sense that it really could be, and maybe we're looking at it from the wrong point of view, that it's all about track and trace of humanity and longevity and health.
Is exactly what it is, Michael. Genetic development is what it is. That's what it's all about. So yeah. And do you have any scars on you that you don't know about?
Well, I mean, I've had a couple experiences of things that I know positively that they were letting me know that what I wanted to see was there because they allowed me to see it. And I've had experiences, personal experience. I've talked about them on my platforms publicly. I'm not afraid of them. One occurred with my daughter, where I saw a discharge coming from the sky out of the middle of nowhere. It was the most beautiful thing you could imagine. So it wasn't a matter of fear, although my daughter turned, looked at me and said, "And what the hell was that?" in a very frantic way. And she was a young girl, 11, 12, maybe 13 tops.
Yeah.
And she would never come off at dad saying, "And what the hell was that?" And in a moment of terror, but not terror, but she was at that point of. Beyond that, I had an experience where I was playing with a light. I guess mentally, I was in a place where maybe the possibility, because I was always, what's in the skies is about what I've been looking up in the skies all about all these years and what the past 50 years of my life has been. But it's only come more prevalent in the last 10 years where they are actually, at times, I'm experiencing them with me. This isn't about that I want to have a show. But in a way, I do want to have a show because it's purposeful to people and humanity and how I can help with disclosure. But I was sitting around a fire pit and I was playing with this light on. Just real quick, I'll tell you about it. Low, medium, high, red light, infrared light, come on, off. I was looking over into the pasture, looking for bears and seeing what the deers were doing with I think maybe it was the horses at that time, but then the neighbor moved and there were sheep. So it was one of the two, or goats. It was one of the two. I can't remember that on. I have notes, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I was playing with the light, and then I aimed it up in the sky because I would always see satellite moving, and I would see at times some of these flashes, that skip time jump, where something of a light would be in one position, then suddenly it's in another, or I would see something just flash across the sky. Now, falling stars, have a drop. These things were able to go up, turn, and curve, and I was like, wow. So anyway, I'm doing this light thing. I go through it 2 or 3 times, and over my head, I look up, and there's this white, huge, over the whole complete driveway, a white light, but a soft white light, not harmful to the eyes in any way, like the headlights now we are experiencing in the cars coming at us, where it's like, holy crap, I can't see where I'm going. This was not like that. I didn't see the entirety of what I understood as a ship until it wasn't there anymore, because I saw the stars and a satellite light that was up in the sky, now in a new position in place, that they have just used the technology to move it. And so for some odd reason, I hit the light at this light, and it intelligently lit up more. And it glowed up and glowed down like a dimmer switch. I went through it, and then suddenly I thought in my head, and the hairs on the back of my neck probably stood up. And I'm not a wuss, but in that moment, I thought to myself, because unknowing, and what the hell did I get myself into? So I'm calling for a few people behind me that I know are in the house.
Yeah.
It was company. It was a camp, and they're doing dishes and stuff. And I'm like, yo, somebody check this. Nobody heard me. Nobody heard me. But the crazy part about it, I did, and I could correlate to some, but I can't tell you the design. It was black into black in a certain way, or gray into black. I could only tell you that there, and that moment after that complete, what the hell was this, in my mind, it was gone. I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. It was just, it like disappeared. It was just, it vanished. And I could see some starlights, dim, low, whatever, through the haze of the sky, due to what our military industrial complex is putting up there, telling us that we need to do this for the better good of mankind and so forth. But I know what I saw. I know it was intelligent. I didn't feel like I had any mind, type of experience where there was a communication, but the communication was with my eyes. Now, the funny part about that, ever since that happened, my eye went foggy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know if it had something to do with something else. I don't know if it was just something that I was doing, because I'm a chainsaw artist. I'm not the best. I try my best when I do it. I'm fairly good with it. Maybe I got something in my eye. I always do. Maybe it was from the wood. I did go to the doctors. They told me what I have was just simply dry eye that's never gone away.
Really?
And they don't know how else to address it. Yeah. So I don't know what that means. I know I experienced it. And as far as the color, that green, one of the most beautiful colors you could experience of the color green. It looked like a firework, so to speak. And within that, of what I saw, it took years to come out, but there was something on MUFON, Pennsylvania, and I happened to come across it. And it was in the same time period as me, where a lady witnessed above trees, the same as I witnessed above trees, this green flow of material, which now we're learning that it has to do with some type of propulsion discharge, if that's factually true. I think we're all skeptical to being able to actually put a finger on that. But so that's part of my stories, and you don't need to know no more, because it's really about you. But I thought I'd share it to you, and maybe in your mindset, maybe with these things, you can ask the questions for me, because I don't have the answers to them, and I never went under hypnosis of any kind.
Yeah. Well, the eye thing, where the first thing that popped out to me, genetic development, Michael. They're doing this, and they're tracking how your body reacts, how it heals, how it doesn't heal, different lights that, how it affects it. They track all of this,
I will tell you this. When I got everything under control, My hair was growing faster. My nails were growing much more faster. I had like every other week or every week. It's like click, click, click. I'm saying that my body was slowing down to a point where when I visited my doctors and stuff, and we're telling him about this over and over, like what's going on? I turn my head. It's like vertigo and all this stuff. And now I don't know. It's probably coming from your neck. Your neck was very badly damaged. Your rotacuffs are all torn apart. They can't be fixed. So I was going through things that happened. But the minute I got knowledge, factual knowledge, and my doctor finally said, you know what, years back, you were borderline diabetic, and I told you to watch yourself. And he says, I didn't look all the way into this any further because you were stable on weight and, things weren't really changing. You were always same complaints, same life. But when I found out about it and I started doing the 3 miles a day or as many times a week as I could, because I went under a weekly regimen, started discounting all the sugars from not drinking milk and doing all these other things, my cuts were like healing like almost overnight. And also one of the other things for me that was been kind of fascinating, I've been woken up between the hours of 3 o'clock on the nose or 3:33. That's what I always see, 3 o'clock or 3:33. The minute my eyes open, if I look to the clock, that's what time it is. And right now I'm trying to manipulate that problem by going to bed an hour earlier to see if I can change it, because it's almost like at times I hear tap, 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 or just the fact out of nowhere, it's like I'm being shooken to wake up. It's really weird, but that's part of my life. That's part of why I do what I do, because I want to understand this. I want to have people like you come on who might be able to help me, but also help the other people, because this community is huge and many are suffering through things that don't have the answers. So I apologize, but I thought maybe if I shared some of what has happened to me, we could bond in a different type of way of communication and talking. So that's been a part of who I am. And now we understand you started, for anybody new coming in. Anyway, welcome to the skies. And if you don't know about the Loaded Gun Coffee, it's right here. It's in the studio. It's in my house. I got to say it. They're my brothers from a different mother. Anyway, that's who I am. Michael Anthony, American Disclosing Uncensored. And with me is Gary W. White. And fascinating story. Trying to share the best he can, the information. Verbal communications in his mind that are it's clear as day, I guess. So how would you like to go further into this with what you can help us with? And let me ask you this, maybe. Is there anything specific we should be focusing on?
I want to say something really quick.
Okay.
You're 3:30, 3:33
Mm-hmm.
with 3:30 and 3:35. I was born at 3:35 in the morning. Now there's a numerical significance to being on a spiritual path with those numbers, Michael. Is exactly what it is. You can try to go to bed earlier. You can try to go to bed later. You're going to repeatedly go there. You're on a spiritual path, and it's very. You can look it up on the internet.
No, I get it. I know all the angel numbers. I know.
Yes.
But here's the thing. With everything we've been taught and everything we understand, I also think that man has taken us on this dumbed down. My guest and I talked about this last night. Dumbed down scenario where at once upon a time intelligences were at a more positive place until certain things happened in history, and then we were all divided. The earth was divided, people were divided, language was divided, a separation apart, it tore us apart from each other, and we lost the frequency of technology and understanding through learning and through maybe who these elders were that were sharing the information done, or maybe something different. Maybe you could help us there.
I like the word you use, elders, and I use this as a breakdown. People seem to think these beings are like different than us. When it comes down to it, our souls are the same. We're really no different than each other. The difference being, as I put it in a scholastic kind of point of view, we're in kindergarten. We're learning complete physical human understanding through reincarnation. What it is to be completely human, man, woman, child, brother, sister. You start out with like Jeffrey Dahmer, you incur karmic debt, you pay those debts back. It turns from hate to love, just like from terror to angelic with the abductions or the procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is kindergarten. That's what we're going through, humanity as a whole. Now these beings, there's 78 other forms of mental and physical understanding that we go through. Once we go through this, we go through these other forms of understanding. The beings with the big eyes, your grays, reptilians, and mantids, and all of these that are doing the procedures,
Right.
they're getting their master's degree. Let's look at it like that. That's what level in this school development. Same type soul. We're all going through the same process. The ones now, my guides, I just refer to them as my guides. They are the Anunnaki, the Palladians, tall whites, any of these beings that are human in appearance.
Yes.
Are called the Sinye. Just like you got Africans, Caucasians, Asians, Hispanics are human. All these human in appearance beings are called the Sinye. They're working on their PhD. Okay. God would be the senior CEO of the organization. The whole purpose of this developmental process we're going through is we're all gods in training. And this is why our scientists say the universe has been expanding. We go through this whole cycle of 78 forms of mental, physical understanding, creates energy, drops into the mid-causal astral planes, they fragment off, and they start in kindergarten. And you go through this process. The astral planes, if those who are unfamiliar, that's where we go when we die. That's our true state of being. That's their true state of being. They're past the all these beings that we're dealing with. They're really no different than us. They're more advanced. They're more developed. But they're a spirit. They're a spiritual energy. And now, when they manifest physically, they're not doing conception, live birth, living 80 years and dying with a planet with a house and 3 kids in college kind of thing like we're used to. They manifest physically. A lot of what these beings, especially these human in appearance, the Sinye, is by molecular manipulation. They could slow up and speed down structures. It'll be in the astral planes. And the astral planes, very pliable. Anything is you could imagine, you could create. They have the ability of slowing down molecules and making it solid. So they're basically around me right now. If they wanted to, they could slow down their molecular structure and be physically right next to me. This is how they walk through walls. People say, they're translucent. They're kind of halfway in between solid and this light being or spiritual form. This is also how they travel. People are going, well, they get in a craft and they're going wormholes or they're doing light years and light speed and this and that. They travel in these astral planes in a spiritual form. Once they get there, they slow down their molecular structure. They become physical. They work with their physical counterparts, speed them back up. It's a very temporary physical state of being.
So somehow they have the mind over matter of unified matter, the substance of creation of frequency that pulls the things together, that they can lockstep right through them. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember ever being abducted and going with them?
The closest I remember that is being let out my bedroom sliding glass door right outside of my bedroom, and it's like a green light. I got one of these beings in front of me, one in back of me, and they're leading me out. But I don't remember being in these craft and being experimented on, and that's part of my soul contract, and I would rather not. That's not pleasant.
Okay. But do you remember going? You actually went through the glass with them. They gave you somehow created a field around you to have that happen.
Yeah, they could slow down my molecular structure just like the soda. You know what I'm saying?
What does that feel like?
Huh?
What does that feel like?
It was like a dream state.
But physical characteristics of what it was like.
Yeah, like I said, it was like a dream is what it was like.
Like anything was possible.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. And my focus hasn't been on that, Michael. The whole abduction thing, I realize it goes on. I realize it affects me on a subconscious level. My teeth are jacked, dude, because I can't deal with dentists. The light, the instruments is very, very similar to being gone with these beings and what they do with these procedures. And not all of them are pleasant. You know what I'm saying? You hear people reporting what they do to them. That's reality, man. Um,
But is it every race?
yeah, it is.
Do
And
you think every race is actually involved on this higher technology of this environment that they created about the abduction, all because of they're trying to help humanity evolve to a higher state of consciousness, awareness, age, where once it was taken from us, where we read some of these uh, uh, statements from certain books, I'll put it that way, because I don't want to point fingers, where people once upon a time could live hundreds of years. Now, they either had technology to be able to, or the ability in some way to change everything from one being and put their own consciousness to another being. And they were able to have the physical body of many traits of many people to have existence that long. Are they trying to work on something like that? Picking and choosing vessels to uh, work with?
well, what it is, Michael, is you got these two types of beings that I mentioned. Okay. You got the Sinye, and then you
Yeah.
got ones that look like your typical aliens are called the Gongole. The Gongole are basically like an arachnid. So you got an arachnid, and there's what, 100,000 different subspecies of arachnid. These
Okay.
beings are the same. They're
Wow.
the Gongole. These two types of beings are working together, hand in hand. The Gongole are learning with their being, with their master's degree, are learning to create and develop the physical. The Sinye are basically the orchestrators. They're choosing how, when, and where these genetics are being used. So people think, and there's subspecies. There's people are saying, well, there's 250 types of aliens here on the planet. There's 250 subspecies, but it's basically the Gongole. They have one prime thing, like we're learning complete human understanding. They're learning to develop the physical. A lot of people, I say this, and they're all, dude, I don't agree with you. And, I'm not here to change people's opinions.
Right.
I'm just sharing what they've taught me. You know,
Thank you.
if you
Thank
want
you.
to listen, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just made a commitment with these beings that I will share what they've taught me, because they said that's been all of our religions, these tablets, Sumerian tablets, blah, 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 blah. They're interpreted by a human, And a lot of times they get changed out of a person's ego. King James version of the Bible. Here's this King James that he changed things to what he wanted. He took out what he wanted. You know what I'm saying? I made a commitment to help people and to share this information unchanged. And that's what they said, that there's another guy, one person I've seen that says there's only two types of beings here on earth interacting with humanity.
Right.
Outside of earth and humanity, I'm sure there are so many different types of beings. Okay.
Okay.
Robert Dean, very interesting individual to
Baba Ding. Yeah. Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
A very, very there's a connection. I'm not going to get into that. It's not the time or place, but very, very well aware of.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I wished I would have been able to talk to that guy, to be honest with you.
Most
And
pleasant man you could ever meet in your life. Softest spoken person you could ever,
really,
ever, that you could imagine. Yes. Yes. A
he's
total rock star of a human being.
wow. I wished I could have met him. I got into him and found out about him and watched his lectures, and I looked up, and he had passed away a matter
Hmm.
like 2 months before I realized who he was. But he said a lot of things that parallels with what they've taught me, and that's what he met and dealt with, these humanoid beings.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people that are being going through these procedures, and they're up in these craft, and they got these bug-headed, the grays or the mantids, and they're hovering over them, and they're going, it's American military. They're standing in the background watching, but it's not. It's these Sinye. They're not humans. Humans don't have this capability. And this is another thing I meant to say a bit back. With this developmental process to get to the point where these Sinye are at, they use the same mental capacity that we have, but they use 100%. It's like we got a left and right half of the brain. With them, it's a whole. This is how they speed up and slow down the molecular structures. This is how they travel. This is how people are going, okay, Machu Picchu, you got stones that are bent. It's a
Right.
telekinesis. And what they're doing is they're speeding up and slowing down these molecular structures. They're bending them, then they're making them solid. Pyramids, that's how they move these big blocks. They could use 100% of the same brain that we use a small percentage of. Some people tell me, dude, that's wrong, and we use 100%. I don't think that's true.
Well, I think we were led to believe in ways that our mind would only become as usable as we accepted the use for them to accept knowledge and to learn. Some people keep themselves at a lower level of knowledge and awareness and to be awakening to things where there's other people who, get to another level.
Yeah.
Maybe some of these people are the ones that we listen to, or like a Bob Odin or Clifford Stone or Lieutenant Corso or a number of other great constituents who share information out there, like book authors, and where do their ideas come from and how were they fed them? And is there some type of power trigger of download occurring that makes them function the way they do? People writing 30 books versus 3 books.
So,
Some may be more awake than others. But I want to ask you a question. So I understand where you're coming out, that they're able to break down molecules and mold things where you can't get, as everybody has always heard, you can't put a razor blade through the stone. All those things. These are fascinating topics and great subject matter. But is there a lower level of these beings also? Because it seems that there are physical ships out there. Believe I saw one. And if they are a spiritual light being, are they traveling different, or are they also traveling? Maybe you're not aware yet. Is there an indifference of how their sophistication of craftswork versus maybe a lower level being who is coming here? Because we understand they can turn off our nuclear systems. They come down. We see them removing water, like you said, taking things from this planet and moving them elsewhere. There are stories in Peru,
yeah.
of how these lights work. And then we hear about people saying that they were drawn up through a light. And I call that a gravity particle beam. Now, that's something that comes out of my relationships and my writing, where a body can just become limp and you rise. You're right. There is a frequency of something that they know that's way beyond the element, I think, of our knowledge. But again, I also think, I don't know how much you ask questions or if you don't partake in a Q&A with them in your relationship. But I would love to know if we are holding at least vessels, because Bob Lazar speaks about it. Bob Odin spoke about it. Project Shock, when he read the manual. If you know anything about him, you know what I'm referring to there, what he read and what changed his life.
Let me say something here. There are physical craft. You're correct. And our government just came out in these disclosures that said they have non-human craft and non-human bodies. Okay. When they get in these vehicles, we'll call them a vehicle, it's like a ball of solder. And I don't like to call them a low level, but that's these Gongolais. They're utilizing these physical craft. They get in this thing, and it's basically like a ball of mercury. It's a silver ball. They get it, and they mentally shape these things on what they want to look like. They could look like anything you could imagine, to be honest with you. They could change flight and mid-flight. These Signé, which are the orchestrators, they could do this as well. But they could travel, like I say, they all travel as spirits. We have underground bases. I'll send you a picture. Again, I keep saying I'm going to send you a bunch of pictures. I'm going to send you a picture that's at a docking station in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're coming in and out of underground bases. So they basically travel to a planet as a spirit, and they have craft on that planet, just like here. Then they go to a spiritual form. They travel. They manifest physically. They got the craft there. They're not physically traveling in these craft, but they do have physical craft. I went through an experience one night. I was getting sick. And I'm laying on my bed and I can't sleep, and I'm listening to PBS on the TV, and I feel 3 fingers go in through my skull, wiggle around, and I kind of jerk and twitch, and they pull out, and I feel like I'm encased in foam, and it's a very comfortable feeling. And I start to float up, like what you're saying. Okay, I'm floating up, and all of a sudden it goes away. I'm back in my bed. And they said that this is how they get in these craft and it forms to them. And it's more organic than a machine. It looks like a machine. We look at it like a machine. And even like Bob Lazar and these people say, there's no seams.
Right.
There's no rivets. There's no nuts and bolts. It's one piece. You know what I'm saying? I dig on Bob Lazar. That dude's for real.
I am with you on that, and a lot of people are going to be on different sides of the fence there, but I think he was one of the major key components of opening the door. Why he did it in all of the ways that he did do it, bringing other people in to also experience and see these crafts working. There's been a lot of things out there that a lot of people talked about in the field. Award-winning journalist as well, George Knapp. It's just amazing what he was able to share to us. And we know that there are realities to this because not everybody on this planet is wrong in any way, shape, or form. They're just not wrong. I mean, we are all experiencing things, and there's got to be some answers to the questions. Maybe not all. We go to bed every night probably saying there's more. A good friend of mine, I always bring him up, but I love him to death, Russell Easterbrooks. We used to say, signing off on the Bigfoot shows that we would do together, and some other topics, was there's always more questions than answers. But I think in some ways we do have some of the answers. David Grush really came on and laid some things out. He didn't hold back. But again, a lot of people are even utilizing him as he was subject matter. He's a plant. I don't know. I mean, Lou Alessandro had somebody above him where not a confrontational manner, but in a like some type of conference or meeting, or just a general conversation between a higher up military person and himself, saying that they were more of a demonic. So do we have good and bad intentions up there as well?
What I've learned, it's our soul contracts. It's not that these beings are good and bad. It's what we're choosing to learn in a particular life.
Right. Okay.
That's what they've taught me. It's like, they've told me I've lived 1,427 lives so far in this human understanding bit. They said out of that, 520 of those I've worked in higher mental development, and in 113 I've worked with these beings. They're my guides. Basically, complete human understanding, Michael. You got to learn the good and you got to learn the bad. It's not all good. How would you know good without the bad?
Right.
And these beings are neutral. They're helping us to learn our chosen life lessons. I got a lot of people have a hard problem with that. And it's funny. I laughed when you said, if I've asked a lot of questions, I've asked so many questions. I'm the perfect person because I got to know, why is this like this? And why did that happen like that? So one of the first things I asked is, okay, reincarnation. And I chose this life and it's been a rough life. My problem has been with humans, not with these ETs. But with that being said, I chose this life. Why would somebody choose to be Jeffrey Dahmer? You know what?
Yeah, it's hard to say that.
Very legitimate question, is it not?
I mean, if one looks at it in an unopinionated way, yeah, I would agree.
So their answer was Jeffrey Dahmer was an infant soul, is an infant soul individual. He just started this reincarnation process. These are his first handful of lives. So what you do, and they said this is really common right now because of the end cycle we're in this planet right now, is to incur karmic debt. So he goes out and he kills these people. And he even said in interviews, he ate them so he would be attached with them forever, which in a sense is true. So you got this karmic debt. You murdered them. You ate them. You need to pay that debt back to them because you ended you interrupted their soul contract and murdered them. So then they got to come back to a life and do that life again to learn their lesson. So you got this attachment. Some call it a karmic ribbon. Okay. So Jeffrey Dahmer hasn't happened yet, but this is a hypothetical situation. He sees, say, 2 or 3 of these people he killed. They're born into a family of 2 drug addicts. They're not taking care of their kids. He sees a scenario where he could be born in, be the sibling with an overbearing need that he has to take care of his brothers and sisters so they survive. The drug addict parents, that's paying back a karmic debt. This sets up a blueprint for this reincarnation process. Now, they said right now, it's in, if you look, Kali Yuga is Hindu, and it's the cycles. The Hindus are the 4 cycles of the earth. The yugas are the 4 cycles of the earth. Kali Yuga is the final cycle. It's a death and rebirth. Okay, they say that's what we're in right now. And when you get in the cycle, the yin yang balance of good and bad gets way off balance to the bad, because you got all of these souls looking to be born to incur karmic debt. So when this all recycles, and I'm a firm believer that, I hate to say this, I always said I would never be the person, the doomsday thing, but we're facing the collapse of our civilization. That's what's going on right now. That's why everything's all jacked up. You look at the news, school shootings, mass shootings, people coming up missing. It's people incurring karmic debt because this is going to recycle. We've destroyed this planet past the point of fixing it. I don't think we could physically fix it. There's a book you could order on Amazon called Radical Regeneration. It's kind of scary, but it breaks it down and says, look, we're at the point where these polar caps are melting. You got party ships up watching them melt and fall into the ocean, and they're going right on. Look at that. Like it's a great thing, and it's the destruction of the planet, you know?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think in order to have a good platform, we all have to remain, I have to remain somewhat objective, but also question some to, keep people aware the best I can by bringing other opportunities of question into it. I'm with you there. And as you, I know who you are. I've talked to you, in length before. We're on the same page. We want the same outcome, the same goodness, but understanding that this planet is within our hands, and the man's demeanor has, in ways, caused problems. But we also have scientific information that throws a lot of that up in the air. And I'm not saying science is right, especially if it's funded through government, where suppression of information is also controlled, where you have on one side climate control being screamed about, and it's our fault, but yet they're giving the elites the power to fly planes every day of the week to go do concerts that put the emissions so much farther ahead than us in homes. And I'm not saying that the ocean doesn't have islands of plastics floating, and it hasn't. I know we need to make corrections. Do you think in any way, though, with some of these things like that, knowing if we got onto some better track, there is a possibility of something happening, of a rebirth by our own doing? And that's maybe what these elders want, or this galactic federation or council of these angelic beings that are overseeing us.
I'm glad you mentioned that, this whole galactic federation, or this group of beings. And people, I mean, these beings play out scenarios, like I said, to help us fulfill soul contracts. But these galactic federations are exactly what you just said, Michael. The concern is this planet. It's their biological warehouse. They cannot allow it to be destroyed. This whole Lou Alenzano you mentioned, and the whole Tic Tac thing down in Southern California off Catalina Islands.
The Nemesis?
Huh?
Are you referring to the Nemesis, or are you referring to the underwater submersible tunnels?
No, I'm talking. Well, there's tunnels. There's tunnels to get into these underground bases. I'm talking about the Nimitz and the Tic Tac that's bouncing around.
Right.
Do you know what it's all about?
Do I know what it's all about?
Yeah.
I have a pretty good suspicion that I do.
Okay. Well, at Catalina Islands, right off Catalina Islands, there's 60 to 70,000 barrels of DDT. They're a government allowed private industry to dump from the 40s to the 70s.
It's
They're,
everywhere. It's everywhere.
yeah, exactly. They're rusting through. It's
Right.
killing the reef. It's killing the animals. They're bouncing around saying, "Look, you got this technology you're using for the wrong thing. You need to fix your mess." But there's no money in it, Michael.
I know. I know. It's sad. But you know what? I think we're getting away from the money era of what life on this planet was. It's not really how much debt we are incurring anymore. Because, as you said, the damages in many ways that people are unaware of, the actions behind the government of what that all was, is why they were and what was purposeful for them. Now to protect themselves is seems to be the underground bunkers will be the safe houses for the elites and whatever else they deem necessary for, because life at the top here is going to have problems, but they're also helping the narrative of the problems to occur.
Yeah,
And we know that there's some type of something. I don't know if it's factual, but many talk about they can't get involved. It's almost like we have to ask them to do it, but this government in the United States won't. And because it's under and controlling and occupying all other countries, stealing their mineral resources for the wealth to create all the things that they wanted, it's all by purposeful action. And I would like nothing more than for them, because I think they've already been disclosing themselves to us, saying we are here. I brought up the other night when we look at some of these ancient things, and maybe it was even me and you talking about the situations of what we see that's been left behind from the ancient people and ancient civilizations, but maybe it was actually them here at one point in time who were doing, as you said, building all these walls, building all these magnificent structures. They were the builders of all these ancient everything that we are questioning. But perhaps they were also the ones that were doing all these carvings and so forth with technologies, because we can't match the technologies. When they tell us and teach us that, a copper tool will do this, and we all know that that could never be possible. But,
yeah,
the Bronze Age, the copper, wood, but yet we're seeing a hammer dated 450,000 years ago inside a stone.
yeah,
Please. That's why they sell toilets to every other outsourced agency that they deal with for $10,000 or a flashlight for 300. The problem why I think the government won't disclose some of this also to recap on this is the fact that how far man's hands been into the pockets of the money who are controlling it to get these narratives underway so they could start their manipulation and not ceasing and assisting for humanity to become better, but to further it to fall down and let a machine take over for a new population of a generation. And on the other side, you have a light and a man with a red hat that they're just trying to put a knife in his back every time he gets up to take a breath to enjoy life, because his focus point's different. And I just hope that, if it's factually true in any way, and our technology has given us any gifts of anything, that there are two fashions of two sets of something, one being more powerful than the other, that can help us get through all this. I mean, I'm talking about the world as we know it, their planet that we are living on, and going forth that way.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, I believe, that they've stopped nuclear wars. They've stopped, launching these bombs. They said that there's been, excuse me, they said that there's been nuclear wars on this planet. There's this article, I think I might have shared it with you, that's they shut down the Grand Canyon because they've realized there's been human life on this planet for billions of years. Okay. Now it goes back to the school of development with the kindergarten, the masters, the PhD. These beings that have their PhD, the senior, they went through complete physical human understanding on this planet. They said one thing we don't do is give ourselves enough credit for what we have achieved. They went through this, they got to a pinnacle of development, they moved on, it started over. That's the pyramids. They were at a high level of mental development, they moved on. So, in a sense, did they build them? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that we could have, by our hands of humanity,
At this
had
point,
that type of capability. Although there's been some very good points of how they were built, but when the lecturers talk about their theories, they're promoting one particular place, not the hundreds and hundreds of them that are on this planet where their theory doesn't add up to work that same way. So we do have people out there teaching us things with good theory, but
yeah,
they're not placing every element of every pyramid, and then their theory falls apart.
yeah,
And I don't mean to be mean to anybody out there, so nobody beat up on Michael, but I'm talking truth here.
you are.
The point is we have to remain objective, remain open, collect the data. We're not done yet.
Yeah,
Because we had Eric Von Daniken explain one thing one way, we have other people explaining it another way. Proof of the nuclear, yeah, but we're also still using nuclear. We're using it for technology. They're playing it right now, as they're claiming, to prevent a pole shift. Well, I think the shift has already occurred because the northern hemisphere is experiencing, not due to all parts of their hand. That's one of the reasons they're cloaking us as hard as they are. If they would stop cloaking us, we would be having desert like weathers, not totally, but our daytime temperatures would be much better. The sun would be out much more, but they're blocking it. It's part of that sun and dim. We have to utilize this to make it all look like it's biblical. And they're following biblical writings, biblical content, biblical dates, and then they narrate around them, and then they throw in a little bit of the stars, the astrology, if it lines this way. So, what is higher ascension? What is getting to a higher place of ascension? And what is our goal? What is our end game? If that would take place for us, is life as we know it done, and we go into this new physical energy world?
you know what I'm to understand? It's a recycle reset. It's not done. It's going to knock the population down to 3 to 5%. A lot of people will die. This reincarnation process continues on. Look at all the relics around this planet where civilizations have collapsed. This is nothing new. It's gone on for billions of years, Michael. It,
So basically, we're going to lose history all over again, like we've always seen the reset
uh,
7, 8 times in theory. And
uh,
if we want to believe the people with the best educations out there, but I know that there are proofs of events, glass particles all through the sands in the east.
yeah,
These talk about what could do that, what could create such heat to create glass. Yeah, the scenarios are just because man has been an abomination in many ways, and I think in ways that the ETs were responsible for covering up the past existences. The same reason why we can't remember our past life existences, because if it was still to be here, it would expose the system, even within their system.
yeah. Um, there's things, it just goes back to this Grand Canyon thing.
Hmm.
They found that there's proof of life going back billions of years. They're finding objects similar to what we have now that are buried billions. There's things on this planet, Michael, that we don't realize are buried underwater and underground. Going back to this whole polar shift, I believe it started shifting. In my opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. Land masses are going to change. Dependence on oil is going to be done. It's going to go back to horses, riding on horses, hunter gatherer, and
Yeah.
it's all going to build up again. I mean, I think it's Machu Picchu. You look at these stones, and you got like very precise work done with stones. Can't fit the cart in; they're bent. And then on top of that, there's more primitive that shows right there was a more advanced technology, and then another primitive one building on top of it. It's
Yeah.
like the Great Pyramid. This thing was built for a tomb. It was built as an energy source.
Or a healing type something. Yeah, and you're right. Billy Carson talked about that a little bit as well, when he was going through and touring, and he does tours for Billy. Forbidden Knowledge. Contact him if you're interested in stocks, because he's trying to get his stocks out there. But incredible guy, truthfully. He's an incredible guy. He's very skilled and knowledgeable. brings a lot to the table. And he's seen evidences of energy and powers and damages to the sarcophaguses. And in his analogy, he thinks they were frequency healing beds, things that we're talking about now. But again, maybe the ancients actually used them in a way, because we really don't find any of them to have bodies. And as I talked to a friend the other night too, we were discussing on another show the fact that you have the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queens. Well, there's their resting places. That should take everybody's mindset out of the pyramids, although in some cases, maybe a body needed moved and that was all that was available. And they do find at time exhumed bodies, were they actually there, entombed there? Probably not, from what we understand, what we find out. But again, it comes down to the truth. We have leaders and people that are in the system and embedded in the government system, who are archaeologists and are put in charge in places. And you can tell how well they're known in the realm when you look at who they're standing in pictures with: the presidents of the United States, the first ladies. I mean, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and that's not even their real names. The Bushes, that's not even their real names. That's not their names. Bushes, that's a name change. These people hide behind things because they do, and I think they have been able to obtain certain amounts of information. And again, we're getting a little off track here by what I'm bringing up. But, talking about the pyramids, when we look at that subject matter, we got to look at the whole picture, where they're at, and look at the theories, and then figure out how the theory matches up to every location. But when you go to Indonesia and some of these other countries, the intricateness and the ornateness of the intelligence that was put behind these is not of normal humanity in any way. It's beyond our own mindset and thought. When you look at some of these structures and what they stand for and who they are, and then you have people saying, what was the giants? You taught me something the other day to give theory on. If it was true about the Anunnaki coming here to mine, and they have such intelligences and capabilities, why not go to a planet where gold's laying all over the surface and diamonds, and just collect what you need right there, because you have the technology to do it? Why jump from planet to planet, creating civilization so you can jump to a purpose to get here? Why not just go directly to where it is? You probably have the technology to know where it is and how to get there, and not even go through all that. So again, that brings the question and the Anunnaki into question, where people say, well, they were our creators. Well, in some ways it's written that they were, but I don't believe, when we look at the fallen angel theory either, that it's true that they were having sexual intercourse with our women because they found them to be beautiful. Well, number one, my theory of thought there is, if they were these giant, magnificent ones, and let's say that they weren't even that, let's say they were angelic, they had no physicalities to actually take on an ability to do this, unless they were to invade a human body only by thought, but not by pleasure, which means that they gave nothing to be able to help that create. But if you had technology that we're finding now, that we can recreate and we can remake animals and, get into that. I'm using layman terms, because if I went into the sophisticated science terms, some might get lost to hear this. But think about this. They probably were using technology to basically impregnate women to create. And then we see giants, we see other monumental things of creation, and I call them the defects. So when we see some of these other possibility made entities that look similar to humanity, to me, that's the defects of the problems that they were going through to get humanity on its way, if in fact any of that's even factually true. But we still go back to a circle of something that says, I think in everyone's mind, man had to already have been here, and they had to manipulate man further, going through different characteristics to get us to a point of where we are now. Or they genetically find the answer and just did it from making mistakes. And then we get Bigfoot, we get Dogman, we get all this other subject matter that comes into the picture that may not even belong there, because in another way, it's looked upon, I guess, that, and maybe you and I had this conversation. They are removing them from this planet because they were coming through due to disruption of how we were handling things, making bombs, exploding, and they were tearing the fabrics, and they were slipping through fabrics because that dimension opened up for them, and then the entities are taking them out of here. Or maybe it was yesterday that I was talking to Nancy, very brilliant woman. So anyway, what's your feelings on some of that stuff? I mean, does anything correlate in what your learnings have been on that?
I want to go back to the Anunnaki and this whole mining the gold thing.
Okay.
And the fallen angels. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anunnaki, the Sinye, or what these Anunnaki are. I believe and what they've told me, they've fully created life on this planet. Okay. If they could create all this life, this planet, to where you remove the bees and everything's going to end, it's all designed to work together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If they can do this, why would they not just create the gold, which would be so much easier?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And the fallen angel thing, I mean, fallen angels are a manifestation of the Bible. Bible's been around, what, 3,000 years? And these beings have been around for billions of years. So I think that's just a biblical way of trying to explain this. Don't get me wrong. Religion has a very, very important place in this reincarnation process. It's what they call a tool of the reincarnation process. Is it the end all? Not necessarily. You know?
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
But yeah, I mean, life was created. And you know, I've asked a ton of questions, and there's some things they don't answer. Okay, I've mentioned to you before in our private conversation, we talked about some things that I don't talk about publicly, but I don't get involved in government related issues. It's one thing through bad experience that I was told to keep away from, and I do. It's not none of my business, it's their business. What was I going to say? Just had one of those whoop moments. Yeah, you know how you forget your train of thought. Goes out.
Don't worry about it. We can move on to something else and come back to it, because you know how that works.
Yeah,
it's like, where are my keys in that moment? And you're walking all over the place and they're in your pocket.
Exactly.
So if a thought's meant to happen, it does come back. All right. So we'll recap a little on this, and just to keep everybody up on speed. If you're just coming in, joining in, this is What's in the Skies. And with me is Gary White, fascinating individual who has had abduction and is a contactee. And he speaks to the more supreme beings, the ones that we have a fascination to and want a better understanding of, and to give better disclosure to people to support them. And his mission is to support everybody, try to help them the best he can in this lifetime for us. And so we've been talking about his opinions and some of his theories and some of mine on my side. So welcome into the show. So let's pick up at maybe with a different vibration of this all, knowing that we are having this seriousness of problem, and it's occurring. Do you foresee this future to come quick? Or is it something that's going to take more time to get to that final breaking point?
As far as like a collapse of the civilization is concerned?
Yeah.
I've asked this, and that's one of the questions they don't answer. I'm sorry, I had to move to a different part of the room here so I could plug in. My phone was getting down low.
Oh, I apologize, brother. We've been out on that long. Oh, yeah, almost an hour and a half.
No, don't apologize. Not a big deal. Quick adjustment. They've never given me a timeline. That's why I know I don't make predictions. They said it could be next week. It could be 50 years. But like you say, the poles are shifting. The earth is tilting. The weather, that's all the weird weather changes. And they have said, Michael, that it's been delayed. And I can't get an answer as to why it's been delayed or how it's been delayed.
Okay, so that kind of correlates with the Mayan calendar then.
Exactly, is what I was just going to say.
Yeah. And that's not just been mine. There's been other theories around it. Part of what Y2J was about too. And that's why I feel this science is taking place in technology of AI is going to be a future tracking device of who may exist after. I'm not saying that's credible. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical possibility that we should keep on the plate. I don't know how you feel about that, but knowing that they're going so far underground and buying so much in land, and we know these cities are being built under there to house. It's we don't have a military branch or governmental leaderships that would have any need for anything of the immensity or the transit systems that are under there that go from state to state to state to state, and now going they're doing tunnels. And Joe himself, even as a president who you may want to believe or not believe, has, I think, entirely made a major slip up when he said, we will build a train tunnel, as he said it, a train rail to go from the United States to other parts of the world. And we do have these technologies, plasma nuclear energy cutters, borers, who leave glass like finishes and so forth in these tunnels. There's people that I know firsthand that were driving through them in tractor trailers 10 years ago, going from one end of the coast to the other end of the coast. They had clearances to make deliveries because they were working through the federal government to do it. The one guy, I used to call him Trucker just because that was my boy. Hey, Trucker, what's up? And he would tell me that this stuff's real that's down there, Mike. But he didn't also know what I didn't always share to him how far my knowledge was on it. And I have pictures within these tunnels, actually driving in them, but not maybe correlating to everything that they have substantiated and created outside of what I even know. And I'm just saying they exist, just like mines exist. And they pick up these mines, they use these other tunnels, they repurpose them, and in some cases they redig. And they created all these other tunnels to go even into the waters, bringing the waters into the mid states of the United States for our submarines to come up in the middle of the United States from underwater caverns that they have created. And I'm not saying that they weren't there, and I don't know how a machine of such proportion would be able to do it. But if they have that, there's possibly another technology, or they find something that was there that didn't come from volcanic or whatever. I guess the best way to say it.
Do you think it may be something they stumbled across?
Oh, most definitely they stumbled across a lot. And that's sometimes why I wonder and how they come across some of the technology that they have had. Because we can go on from one plate to the next saying that we have treaties with this president to do and abductions to occur, and we have missing 411. Well, I call it abduction 911. The more sinister thing of this is we didn't have enough military people and money resources to build these underground places. And I think there's a slavery system beyond human trafficking going on under these tunnels where hundreds of thousands of people are missing, millions. It would take millions of people working down there to be able to. I mean, a machine can do so much, but then it comes down to the hardcore nitty gritty. You need man's hands to be involved to put up, to furnish lighting, water, air, ventilation systems, generator systems, whatever into the future is necessary as to why and what they're building and purposing these for. And sometimes I think when people say that they're out and it's cryptids taking them or it's the aliens taking them, maybe in some cases there's a factuality to that. But when we talk missing 411, like David does too, I don't know. Maybe he does mention this where I talk about, well, look at the thousands that are missing out on the waters and have always been missing off the waters. And we find ghost ships everywhere. And sudden scenarios of like when you get into all the triangles of the world where these ships suddenly go down. Now, is it because there's an electromagnetic frequency that's being tampered with while they are being abducted to go somewhere else? Because even if we dive down on these sites a week later, there's no bodies.
Okay.
We find planes, there's no bodies. The seatbelts are open.
You know what they've told me that causes this with the Bermuda Triangle? Is there's crystal pyramids under water and the Bermuda Triangle, and these are used, they put out like a Wi-Fi signal, like Bob Lazar talks about, they put this hood on this thing, the
Yeah.
part of the motor, it starts up, they take it off, it turns off. This is what propels them. I don't know about the bodies coming up missing, but
Yeah.
like I said, I don't get caught up in government related stuff myself. I've just kind of always figured these underground bunkers they're building, 17 stories underground, are basically, they're going to go try to ride out this upcoming cataclysmic event, just like Elon Musk with wanting to get his rocket ship to Mars. What do they know that we don't know that's up and coming?
I don't know. And I
They're
even
trying to
question,
hide from.
yeah, I even question some of that theory of what's going on because we see some of his technology failing in front of us as if
Mhm.
it hits a mysterious, um, invisible something and it implodes. And then you have people. When again, I'll try to not go deep here, but you have Hillary Clinton saying that they were trying to break through. In 1958 was the last time the Britannia, however you pronounce that encyclopedia in the UK, it was removed after 1958. The subject matter, which I think I made a post on this today, when everybody stopped talking about the dome. When I was a child, we learned about the ozone layer and the dome. What
Yeah.
is the dome? What is this an more it gets more bizarre as we go into it the further we deep dive it, and that's where all the questions remain for a lot of people, where we don't get the answers because everything is manipulated. So on your side is the enlightening side, because you're a contactee of individuals of a different life source of energy or angelic being that are providing you with certain information. So um, we'll get out of that political narrative, but there's a lot remains in questions that I think we need to discuss maybe on a different platform. Is there anything else in the foreseen or with what you have said that you would like to share to everybody?
Um, Geez, I could probably go into a lot of things, Michael.
I believe it. I talked to you. I know that.
We did. Are there any questions out there?
I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? Well, we have a. Let me see here. Oh, River Rose is on tonight. Hey, how are ya? um, River, you have any questions? We'll say hello to some people here. Miss O'Connor, how are you? Good points. I don't know if she's still in with us. We have people coming in and not. No real questions, but a lot of observers, a lot of listeners. Alfred, hey, thank you for coming in tonight. I appreciate you doing that. I'm looking forward to doing a show with him very soon in the future. No real questions. Just Beth just asked everybody to share to their pages and so forth like that. So, I mean, we can always make another day of focus to this and plan how the segment will go a little bit more
We
in
could.
maybe in a different direction. But the thing is, when we talk about discussions like this, so many other things of probability come up within them, and it makes it hard to stay sometimes focused on one particular light. I hope I didn't go off too far on me, because I get diarrhea of the mouth syndrome. I just go, I get into that mojo where it's like da 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 da. But you
Go.
know what? I just want to be able to give everybody the best side of what this platform is and the best side of who the guests are coming in. But you covered a lot. We know you're from San Francisco, born there, and you moved to. Let me just double check my notes here. Northern Nevada. What do you think's going on around in your neighborhood out there? Because I know as we see climate and you're aware of some of the things that they told you that we're headed for disaster due to what we're doing, and that was shared to you. I think the how they're trying to protect us is also harming the life, because everything of this earth is life. They've explained that to you. This
Yes.
is the breeding ground for everything. So everything has creation, even me and you.
Yeah.
Maybe not no longer in our age, but as man and women can achieve things together, we can create. Trees pollinate together. They communicate in a different way and they drop seeds. It's
Yes.
creation. Plants of all sorts. Same, or they leave seeds, or we learn the technology of how to keep them to go into the next year of the future, to provide for ourselves. There's a plan behind everything and an ecosystem behind it all that's very important. Did they throw anything into that agenda for you to help better guide us?
Well, they've said, it's about genetic development. We've talked
Well,
about that.
that's the whole
Okay.
thing.
But there's also the whole side of reproduction. That's all part of it. It's self-sustaining. So that's why you got people talking about hybrid babies and taking
Yeah.
sperm and eggs and this and that. It's all also about developing reproductive systems to keep all of this self-sustaining.
And maybe that's some of the reasons why we're seeing bioengineered, or that's another way to give us a hint into the future, because it's going to be necessary because of a effect, an ELE event, an extinction level event of some sort. But we've never lost the entirety of humanity, because if that was the case, in my mind, if we look at the natural side of man and woman, we've been able to come back, unless, again, they had to interject to start that over again for us. We don't truly know. But we also see now, as they, and again, this goes almost into the topic I don't want to go into, because I'm trying to stay away from it. But when you go out, I'll make an example. You go out and you get watermelon. Now you can get seedless.
Yeah.
Why is it important to de-seed every ethical thing that we know is that is good, to now become unavailable into the future? You know what I mean? It's like, why are we genetically modifying nature? The will of these elders who put everything in place here for us. It's almost like we have the war is between them and us, and man is trying to fight back in some way on one side with a technology to be able to control us into, like, where a quantum system of computer will collect data from a world, through the world, into a base, through the motherboards, or whatever the new sophisticational words are, to understand and control and analyze systems that will progress into new growth after the occurrence of it. That's always been my big what if factor. I've always talked about, what if everything we see matches up to what you're telling us, and there's a war between how to do it right is going on right under our feet, or they are just trying to occupy us with the double S show, the shit show, as it's been said and called, to keep us focused as they're supposed to, in a different position of narrative, in a different place where people get locked into it and tuned into, while they're preparing for this other thing.
For like a cataclysmic event.
Yeah, I'm trying not to use words to I could just say them right on, but the point is,
But the
worst thing to do is to tell the world, but that there's a possible ELE coming, but we already know that we've been taught that. One of the things that has always come through the educational system, even though much has been replaced or misled, was the fact that, there are meteors. And isn't it funny, the other day, this thing passed us and it could have hit us, but it didn't. We didn't see it till it was gone. I mean, come on, as the universe was born, however, whose ever hands were in it, under natural guidances of a Big Bang, or the probability of unified matter of a substance of something that created a platform for intelligence to start to just thrive through energy. And this whole system started to work within that system, and creation was being born everywhere. But if that was the case, then an Earth's beginning, in my mind, would have been catastrophic in itself billions of years ago. Because at the beginning, nothing's perfect. The ecosystem's not yet in place all the way. It's at a beginning point. And that in itself is suffering and engagements of catastrophic failures and events as it progresses to get us to a place of where it becomes neutral. But there's going to be a tail end of that event at some time where the sun, maybe not in our lifetimes, maybe not in 1,000 lifetimes, but that sun's going to start to fail. And there's going to be a dawn of a new kind of different day there, because we need the sun, and we need the sun to survive, just like we need the bees. There are things that are so important to this earth in order for us to go into the future. All I could say to you is, if you could ever, in your meditation or in your conscience level of communication to the supreme ones, maybe inquire a little bit, because let them know that we as a society of good, that we are here and we want to help it do better. And maybe you can bring us back some more important factors that way at some point through our lifetime, that we get to know you.
Gotcha. I want to go back to where you're talking about the watermelons with
Sure.
I've never really thought about that, but they've told me before that they've got complete genetic samples and they could reintroduce species or even plants, animals. And it kind of goes back to the whole Noah's Ark thing. It's like, I have a hard time with the guy built a wooden boat and they put 2 of every species on this wooden boat. Just in the arachnids, I mentioned them earlier, there's 100,000 different arachnids, and it would be literally impossible to put all these different species on a wooden boat together. The carnivores would be eating the herbivores, and what would the herbivores eat if the world flooded? It would destroy all the plants, and it wouldn't generate enough time for the plants to regenerate to have them something to eat. My opinion, I think they just didn't understand that it was these beings that did this, and they have a whole genetic library, so to say, and reintroduce species.
And there's movie and content out there that comes and correlates right with that, and they even call it the Ark.
Yes.
A device to go into space because humanity was going into some type of whatever. And in this Ark, there was a room, and with all the preparations done for all the importances to go somewhere else until it was safe to come back and recreate what was taken from here with them. Humanity taking it. And humanity will be the ones that will be, in my eyes, the ones who would have to do this. They're not going to take us by our hand and say, okay, boys and girls, don't screw it up this time. We have everything here for you. But so there is, in fact, designs like that. But again, why are they doing it to us now? That's the whole thing, because maybe we don't know enough, that what we're doing is senseless, but we see all these same characteristics throughout everything that we're dealing with. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is. And we have to, I think as human instinct, they should understand that we have been told you don't have the need to know for so long. In reverse, our analogy is we want to know more. But I also think it comes with instinct. Some of humanity's traits, and going back to the Ark for just a minute, it's also been described as a round where they had years to prepare it. It was a round, not as an Ark-like boat, but like a basket. And there's been theories out there and we do know that cultures were building basket boats, but they had so much time to do it. It seemed like there was technology for them. And there's many very rare materials. I call some of them knights, lardonites and things like that, where these are and very very hard. Let's just say very expensive, very hard to get types of precious metals. And I think that's part of why the construct of everything we see that comes to the third world countries getting taken down and being occupied is because some of these resources are with under their feet, which is shameful for us to take their resources and put them into poverty, but it seems like there has to be an objective of a ruler, always has to be an objective of a ruler to handle the command of how everything has to happen. It's just mind blowing to me because theoretically, everything you bring up has been a positive message. You don't know everything, but you know enough. Enough's been shared, and I'm sure we'll have future dates to even discuss it more. But and it saddens me that we have to go back to the typical subject matter as I've been doing to try to also keep a light to the other side of it. It's not that I disagree with you in any way, but these things exist, and I think people deserve their answers. But we're not going to be the guys to be able to give them to them. We're going to be guys who can come on a show and hopefully keep people aware of the broader element of the knowledge of what will help them for themselves to further research for all the answers.
Gotcha. Want to go back to something you triggered a bit back here. Is I asked him once, you must think I'm really an idiot for some of the things I've done. I've made some bad decisions. I'm human, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And on a small scale, I'm just using myself. And they said, no, we understand. We've been through what you're going through. So we understand why. And I think on a larger scale, the governments and the elite and all of this, it's the same thing. They understand why they do what they're doing. You know what I'm saying, Michael?
Yeah.
Right or wrong, indifferent, whatever, they understand that there's a reason us humans do what we do. Part of the learning process.
I guess that's that evolutionary thing plateaus that we need to start reaching more of.
Yeah,
it's that lesson, as you said.
We learn from the ramifications of our decisions.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Nobody could ever disagree with that.
So,
good. No, nobody could ever disagree with that. That's factual all the way around. We are responsible for every step we take forward, no matter how it reflects whatever. But the point like you make, it gives us knowledge, and if the fire's hot, you learn not to stick your hand in it no more.
Exactly. We're like I said, kindergarten.
Yeah, I imagine you're right 100%. I really would. So, hey, does everything do they look exactly like we have been understanding them to look? Like, does the mantis really look 8 foot tall and have all the same type of features as what one would expect, like a praying mantis?
Yes, they do. They said it's limited only to our imagination. Now, there's certain types of beings, the mantids, the reptilians, and the grays. I've had interactions with all these beings. I've had the 7-foot praying mantis, looks part man, part praying mantis. He's in my closet, moves like a spider, very jerky and fast. And I'm freaking out, and he's telling me, we've never hurt you. Why are you scared? And it's true. They've never hurt me. And I've dealt with the same with the grays, where I'm laying in bed, my hand falls off the side of the bed, puts his hand in my hand, and I could feel these 3 long fingers, and I'm bending his arm back to where the back of his hand is touching his forearm. I'm pretty much paralyzed outside of doing that one movement. I can't open my eyes, I can't scream, I can't move, but I could bend his arm all the way back to his forearm, and they're saying the same thing. We've never hurt you. Why are you hurting us? But yeah, that's exactly these beings. Like you say, everybody, you hear people reporting their stories, right down to the reptilians. I've never seen the reptilians, but I had an ex-girlfriend say, I want to meet these beings. I want to hang out with them. And some of them they look exactly like us, and they'd walk up to you and you'd have a conversation with them, and you'd never know it unless they want you to know it. And then you got these beings, the Gongolay, that yes, they look like your stereotypical aliens, and might not be a positive experience. And she one night woke up in the middle of the night and saw this reptilian hovering over me, and it scared her pretty bad. They just waved a hand and she was put back to sleep. Kind of ended it, but she didn't handle it very well.
Understood.
So, and you see people all the time in these posts on Facebook and on the internet say, yeah, be careful what you wish for.
I asked myself that same question, but I do agree with you on the species and so forth. Why would you hurt them? I think everything in nature has a purpose, but we make mistakes because we were taught to fear spiders. We were taught to
Yeah,
fear snakes. We were taught to fear. It has to do with satanic. It has to do with religion. It has to do with, you know, eh, Chinese people are evil. You're going to fight them in your lifetime in war. It's going to happen. It's media. It's provocation, and maybe we need to pick up the spider with a couple pieces of paper, take them outside and release them.
yeah,
And maybe we would stop some of the extinctions that are going on because we lose species constantly on a daily basis.
yes.
Soon it's going to come down to the point where it will be with us. It will be because there's properties to everything. When you hear about there's a million spiders to every acre of land, a lot of people are like, oh my God. But we're only like that because I don't think we've ever been taught to understand the goodness of what this is all about. And are things venomous? Are things poisonous? Yes. I think we look at things like that, and that tears the whole scenario of the situation apart. So there's much to learn while we learn not to make mistakes. But everything has an important part because it's our substance. It's part of what gives our ecosystem life back. You know, if we get rid of all the trees, what happens to the oxygen levels?
Exactly.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
know, but we're facing things like this. You know, and we're facing extinction levels of fires and floodings. And I'm just saying, from my mind, my perspective of it all, I wish the aliens would interject. I really wish these others, if they are the positive ones that oversee us, look for us, want us to live through these things, then you know the our destinies are written by them and we can't control any of it. And that's fine.
Hey,
You
Michael,
can't do nothing about it. But
Michael,
a lot of us value every day's breath to enjoy this everyday world. And we need help. We
maybe they
need
maybe they have intervened and the wrong thing was done with what was supplied to the elite.
that. Understood.
You know, I
Yeah.
think they have myself. I think they've tried to intervene. I don't, I mean, a lot of people, and I get it. If you're going through an experience where you're being terrorized by something that looks like a bug that's half human, half bug, and that happens, that's a reality. These people telling these stories are not making them up. That's their world. But once again, like I said earlier, it's your stage of involvement with these beings. I went through it. I'm past that. Part of my agreement is I don't know nothing of these abductions. Mine's about the information and helping people.
Right.
Just I'm at a different level.
No,
That
I get that. I get
large,
that. So I apologize if I just do that sometimes. I got to learn to control my excitement.
no, don't apologize. No need to apologize, Michael.
Yeah, but still, it would help for in the furtherment of for everybody
You
that
know,
way.
you know
So,
what?
what? Anything else?
Can I say something?
Yo,
You,
most definitely,
you know,
please.
you know what I've really learned out of tonight is next time I do one of these, I need a pad of paper and a pen. Because you get your thought train going and you're talking and you say things and I'm going to say something, but I don't want to interrupt you. You don't want to interrupt me. I need to take notes.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
slow
I
down.
know. And then you feel guilty about interrupting one or the other back and forth and whatnot.
You got to be
But
respectful.
again, I try to stay purposeful for viewers, the viewers who are kind enough to come in into the chat rooms or share their ideas or just have an interest because this is something that they're concerned with or they want to experience more knowledge because we need to do this. Like right now, we have a very famous person in the room. And I gave you a special thanks yesterday. If you listened to my podcast with Nancy Times. She pronounces it different than I see it, but I did say thank you for all your work to you too there because even Constantine, she has been an inspiration to me in her work. I read her work, and she's been in the group tonight. She stopped through, so we appreciate you very much and thank you for doing that. And if I can help you in any way, let me know. I know you have a new book release. I'm not pressuring you. I know the rest of the world is. She's been on coast to coast in some of the best places out there. And she's a rock star. She's a very good person, good family person. She's doing it for us.
Gotcha.
Her work is she's an inspiration to me. She really is. I look up to her. I want her to know that. But nevertheless, yeah, you're right. A pad and paper, a pencil, yeah, a pad and pencil, or tablet, something
Something.
will come into handy. Without no, there's no doubt about it. There's no
It
doubt
would.
about that.
It would.
So, what do you know about any further healing from them? Have they ever been able to touch you while you were going through your diabetes to actually help you more?
Um, yeah, Michael, they've saved my life several times. I've had COVID 3 times, and there was once my kid's mom came in the bedroom and she says, "Are you dying?" And I was like delusional. Of course I'm effing dying. I'm dying. You're dying. Everybody's dying. And it just went on some tangent. And she's all, it just feels like death in here. And I set up, Michael, and I felt my body, my metabolism kick back in. I think the first time they've saved my life was in car wrecks when I was young, 16 years old or so. Um, don't know if I should go here, but once again, going back to the band, the party life, I
No,
think,
that's okay. Take us into that piece before
you know,
before we go off air, if you can. We got around 10 minutes remaining. We can go a few minutes over. I'm not locked and stuck to that, but you did have some out of body with that, correct?
no, not necessarily out of body. It was drugs. I should have been dead from drugs.
Oh, okay,
To be
okay.
very honest with you, I'm a recovered drug addict. I'm very open, very honest. It's going to be in my book about my past. I lived like Ozzy Osbourne, you know.
Hmm.
I played in metal bands and rock bands and partied and did all of that. And I've recovered from that. I've taken this whole life being homeless, and I sent you the back of what I was working on for my book. Okay.
Hmm.
And I've had a gun to my head several times. I've had a gun in my mouth. I've been stalked. I've been shot at. I've been through a hard life. And up until just a couple years ago, I mean, I remember being homeless and living in this truck and sitting there crying, going, why me? Why do I got nothing? Why have I gone 2, 3 days with nothing but water to drink and nothing to eat? And I realized a couple of years ago it's to help people, Michael, that I could relate. I used a kid, I won't use his name. I had a kid contact me in a group on Facebook, and he asked me, have you ever thought about killing yourself? And I said, yeah, I mean, look at what I'm telling you I've been through. Of course I have. So he asked a couple questions, and I pulled him aside in a PM and started talking with him and asked him, are you okay? And he said, no, I'm not. He says, my mother died. My father left. I'm being raised by my aunt and uncle that they provide bare minimum. But you could tell the kid wasn't loved. And he was at that point where he wanted to end his life. And I told him, I've been there. I thought of doing the same. But you know why I didn't? Because if I did, I got to come back and go through all this again till I get it right. And I'm not going to do that. That's, you think about the people that you leave that you're going to hurt when you kill yourself. And the realizations, if you kill yourself, what you go through. I mean, that's one example of one of the many people that I've helped. And it all comes from living this hard life, you know?
Are we breaking a contract with them that we came into this life to live by doing things like that when we go down these wrong paths?
No, it's part of me. It's part of my learning. That's
No,
part
it's
of,
part of your life, but does that violate a breach of contract between what your purpose in this lifetime was to be for?
okay. I've pretty much figured out my soul contract for the most part, Michael. And what it is in a past life, I had very profound psychic abilities. Okay. I was a charlatan. I ripped people off. I lived high off of the hog. Everything was great. Okay. But I took advantage of people. Okay. This life, I've had a hard life. I help people for free. My goal is to help millions of people for free. It's karmic payoff,
I understand. I
you
understand.
know?
Yeah,
And,
and
and they're,
it's
they're
hard to make statements and tell truths like that. But look, we're in a world where um, you don't have to be an idol to anything or anyone for us to give you acceptance because of mistakes you may have made. As you brought up Ozzy, we know the path that he had lived, and he's facing problems due to a lot of it, possibly. Maybe that's some of the end game for him and
Yeah.
his later years that he's going to experience from whatever. The thing is to live out the destiny the best we can, and make best with the mistakes. Like I said earlier, you learn by them. You don't put your hand back in the fire once you figure out it's going to scald you and burn you. You just don't do it.
But
So you feel like your life now is all on a very good path into the future. Your outlook is to help people, share your content of what they have shared with you. Tell your stories about your experiences and so forth, and how they worked. And you're working on a book going into this upcoming year. Do you have a future expectation of release so people have a little bit of awareness of a date of expectance?
I was hoping by the end of the year, Michael. I got, as far as information from them, I have enough information from them. I have answers to questions that people have asked me. And it's weird. I think we spoke about this when we had our one-on-one conversation. And the odd thing is, you would think my personal life would be the easiest part of it. It's the hardest part. I don't know if it's because I got to relive all this. I've had some good times. Don't get me wrong. I've had some scary times and I've had some hard times. But that's been the hard part of it. And there's a saying, you sell the sizzle, not the steak. And my life, my personal experiences are pretty wild. They're hair raising. And I've told people stories. They're funny, they're scary, and it's going to be the sizzle that sells the steak. And that's the part I got to wrap up and finish for this book and see if I can get it published.
Out of sight. Well, there are good people that surround me, and they are on the same journey as you, and they have been in this journey. And I'm sure if you need anything answered, I could reach out and probably ask them to get some information that could help you. Like me, I'll give you an example of my book writing. People have no idea what I got coming.
Mm-hmm.
This is only just a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I have boxes full, and it's all coming. It's
So
all coming.
You're
It's all coming.
You're writing it out on paper.
I'd like to write. I'm a writer.
Gotcha. I'm doing mine in my phone, Michael, that I'm speaking on right here is what I've been. I mean, it started with basically doing posts on Facebook of the information. And I think I sent you a link to my Facebook page. Wow.
It's everywhere.
Wow.
But I know where everything is.
But you know where everything is.
And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. It directs everything to everything. But please finish.
Yeah, I sent you a link, I think, with my Facebook page I just recently started, and a link to my my Facebook group and my page. My page has most of my posts over the past couple of years. If anybody wants to read what I've learned from these beans, they're welcome to go read for free. I don't feel it's my place to charge people for this information. I will post all that information that will be in my book for free. And but my life story and all that, I think I got the right to charge for that, in a book form.
Oh, sure. I mean, and everybody needs to exist, and we know what it takes to be able to exist. So I totally get that. I ended last night the same way I want to end with you. Subject matter pertains to something different, but maybe you have some knowledge of it we just didn't really conclusively touch base on. What's your theory, or maybe knowledge? I'll ask you if you have any knowledge on the theory of Bigfoot and so forth like that, because it's a huge phenomena where just so many theories of thought, but we have no real evidence. We have no body. We have sightings. We have images. We have pictures.
Yes.
They're always static and blurry. Have you been told anything that can enlighten the Bigfoot community?
Sure. That's a great question. I got a good friend named Dan that's had multiple experiences with Bigfoot starting when he was 11. And yeah, I've asked a bunch of questions about this. I mentioned earlier that we're going through complete human understanding, and there are these other 78 other forms of mental, physical understanding. With each one of these levels, there's a dimension that's parallel to ours. Okay, these Bigfoot and these beings are interdimensional beings. They're in another dimension, and it's one of these levels of our understanding. The reason, I mean, they're very much linked into these ETs. That's why you see the parallels, the blurry pictures. It just is exactly the same as the UFO phenomenon. It's a reality. They're there. They're, until I, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, they use more percentage of pretty much the same brain we do, same mental capacity.
Okay.
They're a reality. They're there. It's another form of learning that we will go through. I know there's also a theory that these were extraterrestrial pets that got loose. I don't know about that one. That's not from my guides. That's from somebody that shared that with me, not my friend Dan, but somebody else. And I just think it's another stage of learning, and it's more mental. That's why they're at that point where they could disappear. They could, like we talked about earlier, manipulate the molecular structures. 1 minute they're there, 1 minute they're gone. They blend in with the foliage, that kind of thing.
So with that, and having an ability like that, coming through these dimensions, knowing a little bit more about things, maybe that explains some of the reasons why people get sick or get affected with what they call the infrasound thing that occurs. It's something I think we should look into from a different perspective, and maybe that's part of the point behind it. I mean, who's to say? We just don't have enough of the answers yet, but everything we talked about, I enjoyed so much. It's been a great evening with you.
That's been fun.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody the name of your Facebook group too, so they can look you up, see the type of processes you take for, and the purposes you put behind your postings.
My group is fairly new. Are you still with me, or did I just disconnect us?
You're still with me by voice.
Okay. Let me bear with me 1 second.
Yeah,
My
you might have
group,
just hit your camera control.
yeah, exactly. I had to pull up the group. My group name is UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrials, aliens, and the human connection.
Very
Okay.
interesting name.
And the Facebook page is the theoretical gift, them and us, which I will okay, I should be back.
Yes, you are.
Cool. I will send you a link. I don't know if when you post this, if you could attach a link to my group and my page, if that's
I
possible,
can try to get something in the title head.
you know, and I can
Yeah,
send you,
I can try to get something in the title head. I don't remember if I ever did that before, but it could very be that it's possible, I would say.
you know,
I
but
may
yeah,
know a lot up here. I don't always have the technical savvy, and I have to
stop.
sometimes I have to call my daughter up or something and say, "Hey, you know, tell me something." You know, and well, I'll do my best to get it worked out. It'll at least be posted to some because, believe it or not, it's already been shared.
Oh, good,
But
good.
not every platform, because like I told you, I've had abundance of shows, and
Yeah,
sometimes group get angry with me. This guy keeps doing these shows and he's the only thing in the group. And it's like, I don't mean to do that. I'm just trying to work for the people the best way I can, you know.
yeah,
And I do want to, even help people out further. I want to have people like Constance on and Ron Moorhead, and I want to do a live lecture, scenario conference where I
yeah,
bring people in live. I tried to do it last year and there were some complications, and we were undergoing seriousness with streaming and the conflict of being able to keep signals and storms. It was just nuts. So it was
yeah,
a period of time I would send out emails to people and they weren't even getting them.
yeah,
I could send myself an email and I wouldn't get it for 3-4 days. That still happens in ways, but
yeah.
it seems to be much more subtle. The things for me have been better, but I also upgraded a few more components. But I would like to put like a group of people together and give everybody like 15 to 20 minutes to talk about their books and their theories and what's behind them, but do something as a live lecture where it's like a form of a round table. So I am looking forward to trying to pull something like that to get together prior to summer, because a lot of people on in an evening night, get a little bit bored, and if it's planned out right, I think they'll look forward to seeing some of their most favorite people to be on it. Now, I'm not saying I could get all their most favorite people to do it,
Yeah,
but I'll give it a really hard try to make it happen. And who knows, maybe you could play part of it that night.
that would be cool. I was thinking of doing a Facebook Live.
Well, that would be great. I really try to help people to do that. This one of the reasons I have you on is to actually, like anybody, is to try to help. Not I do self promoting by doing a show. That just comes with it. I don't
Yes.
have to say that, but it's also what I can bring to the show, that it introduces the element of the person and what their work is about, so they become more known for it. Because I feel like this: reach for the stars. That's why they're there.
Yes. Yes. Agree with you.
Yeah. But anyway, it's been a really fantastic night. I want to thank everybody who's come into the podcast tonight, the show. This is What's in the Skies, and this is America Disclosing Uncensored. We have given you disclosure the best we could tonight with my guest, Gary, and I. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I sincerely, there's a last showing of something. I'll put that up for somebody there. And we'll just read it because it came in late just now. The only encounter in the forest was a tree knock and the tree stump being pushed into the pond. I didn't see the animal. I headed the other direction. Probably not a bad idea. Yeah, we
Check
don't
this
have
out.
all the
Can I
answers. It could have been a monkey. I don't know,
say
but
something? Can I say something, Michael?
oh, most definitely. Sure,
This
you
friend,
can.
this friend of mine, Dan, that's had the experiences since he was like 11,
Yes, sir.
has shared with me. I don't know, you want to call it a routine, how if you want to have an encounter with one of these, what you need to do, because he says if you're going out squatching and knocking on trees, he says it's not going to happen. But I could send it to you. I don't know if anybody wanted to contact me, I'd be more than willing to share it with them.
You tell him
uh,
to friend me or something, and he could send me too, whatever you can. I want to
yeah,
bring something up about that. It's funny that this tree knock thing came up. I don't
yeah,
know if this is paranormal or not, but there was a fella, and I'm not going to say who he was at this point because I really didn't get full permission yet of Phil, where I would feel free to talk about it. But I could tell the story because that the subject matter that surrounds it's the most important part. So he was called to a property to investigate, and he does squatching, he does investigations and so forth in a certain area, and he would travel so far at times, points in times. So he was about 100 miles from his home, about 2 hours in driving, 2 hours 10 minutes, something like that. And he went to this property. He looked around. He got very little evidence, but he believed their story, and they had enough things that he received through mail that gave him an interest to say, "I need to go there and collect more information, do an interview, face to face interview, so forth." So he sits there. He's going through the whoops. He's going through the whistles. He's going through the tree knocks. Nothing occurs. So he's getting tired. He's been there for hours. He knows daylight's a couple hours away, and he figures, well, traffic, what I'm going to get home, reasonable hour, get home by morning.
mhm,
So he decides to pack up. He doesn't, I guess he leaves a note the way I believe it was said to me, the way I understand the story. Let the note, we'll talk. It left the note, and it basically said, we'll talk. Have a great day. He leaves, gets in his car, packs up his gear. He's on his way home. He's going over bridges, crossing rivers, creeks, little boroughs, cities, whatever. Remember, it's 100 miles from his home.
yeah,
Most fascinating part of it, he gets out of his car. Legs are stiff syndrome. Everybody knows. Come on, you could be young and you get a stiff leg syndrome. You
yeah.
can't move when you first get out of the car, and he's trying to adjust. And suddenly, he gave a certain type of knock. Is his last endeavor while he was on the property.
Mhm.
And how he did it, only he would know how he did it unless something else hurt him.
Yeah.
He reaches down, opens up the trunk, and suddenly the response came 100 miles away from where it occurred.
Yeah.
So, you saying that they are interdimensional
Yes.
and that they have a certain type of ability
Yes.
correlates exactly with that story.
That makes it does.
And you're hearing it here for the first time. I don't know if it being out there, at least this is his story. I never heard it before. I write down everything. I really do.
That's good.
So I thought it was pretty fascinating. But
That's
so was tonight. It's been great. Hey, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
you.
From all of us here at What's in the Skies, I hope you like the new format name that we're going into. Remember, we also have a hotline, and I'm going to be doing a show that will be coming up. I haven't decided how often, but I'm going to entertain an open line with a phone number where you can call in with your story as well. And just keep that in mind. So look for the information to go further into the future of something that is definitely going to happen. It's going to kind of be like reliving the old Art Bell days, so to speak. I've done live in calls before. They're not very successful. Not as much as what people might think, but I'm going to give it another shot because I think where I'm at in this platform, how it's moving forth, people are going to want to speak out, and that's very important to me that people do that. So, from me to you, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and let's see what else we could put up for the very last part of the segment here, since we put that out. Hey, thank you, River. We really appreciate you too.
Can
And
can I finish, Michael? Can I finish with something?
Sure, please.
I want to finish about something about Michael Anthony. I posted in a thing. You're the puzzle master. Everybody is sharing a piece of the puzzle, and you're putting the puzzle together.
I appreciate you saying that. I can only hope I can do good for everybody. But remember, it's
Yeah.
everybody helping me.
Yes.
This is a mission that we're all in, and many facets of many things. As long as I can give them support, that's all I care about.
You do.
Thank you.
I appreciate
You're a rock star yourself, brother. You really are.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. You're what makes this channel work. I promise you, that's the truth. It's what you guys do for me. It's not really about me. I could sit here by myself and talk to them blue in the face, and I'm pretty good at it. But it makes a big difference when people can look across and see a guest that they can actually interact with and make that human connection to. It's very important. It really is. So it's guys like you that come on that help me. You're way more important to me, but I'll do the best to work on my puzzle. I promise. And that said, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging in. Constance, you're a rock star. You know, I really do believe that. You guys have a great night. I'm going to go get myself a bite to eat. Take care.
Thank you.